A pet groomer ruined a millionaire's prize dog, but what he asked her to do. Hello, viewer. Thanks for joining us. Leave a like and share your thoughts in that comments, along with the city you're watching from. And now, let's continue with the story. Charlie, I need you to not panic. That sentence has never once been followed by something I should not panic about. Lily Beaumont pressed her back against the grooming table and stared at the Bichon Frise sitting in the rinse basin. The dog looked up at her with calm brown eyes, perfectly content, utterly unaware that her championship white coat was now the color of a flamingo smoothie. "The dog is pink," Lily said. "What kind of pink?" Charlie's voice went flat on the other end of the phone, like a subtle blush or like a bottle of Pepto-Bismol had a baby with a sunset. Lily rubbed her forehead with the back of her wrist. "I grabbed the wrong conditioner. The tinting solution for the Yorkie show prep was sitting right next to the whitening treatment, and I was running behind because the Labradoodle had a panic attack in the dryer and—" "Lily, yes. Whose dog is it?" Lily looked at the appointment book on the counter. The name was written in Wade Coulter's precise handwriting, underlined twice. "It belongs to a Rhett Donovan." Charlie went quiet. That was worse than screaming. "Who is Rhett Donovan?" Lily asked. "Rhett Donovan is the man who built half the commercial waterfront in Savannah." Charlie let out a breath that could have powered a wind turbine. "His dog has won 3 regional championships. Her name is Duchess. She is worth more than your building." Lily looked at Duchess. Duchess wagged her tail, flinging tiny droplets of pink water across the white tile floor. A pink paw print bloomed on Lily's apron. "Well, at least she is a unique shade. I'm calling it flamingo chic. This is not the time for your coping humor. It is always the time for my coping humor. It is literally how I survive." Lily grabbed a towel and started blotting the dog's fur. The pink did not budge. "How long does semi-permanent tint last on a Bichon coat?" 6 to 8 weeks, minimum. The texture holds dye like cotton." Charlie paused. "You need to call him before he shows up. He is not picking her up until 4. It is 3:47. Lily dropped the towel. She looked at the front door. The afternoon sun was cutting through the storefront glass of paws and claws, illuminating every plant she had crammed onto the windowsill, the fern she called Gerald, the succulent she called Brenda. Neither of them had advice for this. "Gerald, any thoughts?" she whispered. Gerald said nothing. The bell above the door chimed. Lily straightened. A man stepped inside, and the shop seemed to shrink around him. He was tall, dark-haired, wearing a charcoal suit that cost more than her monthly rent. His eyes swept the room the way a building inspector surveys a condemned property. "I am here for Duchess," he said. Lily clutched the phone against her chest. Charlie's voice was still buzzing from the speaker, tinny and distant. "You must be Mr. Donovan. Where is my dog?" She could have explained. She could have eased into it with context and an apology, and perhaps a small joke about creative grooming trends. Instead, Duchess chose that exact moment to leap off the grooming table, trot across the tile floor with her freshly pink paws, and sit directly at Rhett Donovan's Italian leather shoes. He looked down. The dog looked up. Pink. Everything about her was pink. "What?" He did not finish the sentence. His jaw tightened, and his eyes moved from the dog to Lily, to the row of bottles on the counter, to the pink paw prints on the floor, and back to Lily. "I can explain," she said. "You dyed my dog." His voice was the temperature of January. "Accidentally. There was a Labradoodle situation, and the bottles were next to each other, and I know this looks—" She gestured at Duchess, who wagged her tail and pressed her pink face against Rhett's ankle. "I know this looks bad. This does not look bad." He crouched and lifted Duchess into his arms. The dog licked his chin, leaving a faint pink smear on his jaw. "This looks like you destroyed a $30,000 show animal." "She is not destroyed. She is just temporarily festive. He stared at her. The silence stretched long enough for Gerald the Fern to have formed an opinion. "How do you fix this?" he asked. "The tint is semi-permanent. It will grow out in 6 to 8 weeks. And in the meantime, I can do weekly treatments to accelerate the fading. I will do them for free, obviously, and I will personally care for her coat until my dog has the Southeast Regional Kennel Club qualifier in 9 weeks. Lily's stomach dropped. 9 weeks. 9 weeks, and she needs to be championship white. He set Duchess down. The dog immediately trotted back to Lily and sat on her foot. "Your shop is clearly not equipped for this level of care." "My shop is perfectly equipped. I just had a bad afternoon. A $30,000 bad afternoon." He straightened his jacket. "I will have my lawyer contact you in the morning." "Or," Lily said, and she did not know where the word came from, but it came out the way words always came out of her mouth. Before she could stop them, "You could let me fix it." He paused at the door. "You just demonstrated that you cannot be trusted with a bottle of conditioner. I demonstrated that I can make a mistake and not run from it." She picked up Duchess and held her against her chest. The dog settled immediately, tucking her pink head under Lily's chin. "Let me care for her, daily treatments, professional coat management, dietary supplements for coat health. I will make her show-ready in 9 weeks. At your shop? At your house?" The words were out before she could reconsider them. Daily treatments work better in a consistent environment with reduced stress for the animal. If she is home, she is calm. If she is calm, the treatments are more effective. He turned fully. Those grey-green eyes studied her the way a man studies a contract he suspects has a hidden clause. "You want to come to my house?" "Every day. I am offering to fix what I broke. That is all." Duchess licked Lily's chin. Another pink smear. Lily did not wipe it off. Donovan looked at the dog in her arms. He looked at the paw prints on the floor. He looked at the row of plants in the window, each one with a handwritten name tag stuck in the soil. "Then you will come to my house and fix it yourself," he said. "My estate manager will send you the address." He walked out. The bell chimed behind him. The door closed. Lily exhaled. She looked down at Duchess. "What did I just agree to?" Duchess wagged her pink tail. Charlie's voice buzzed from the phone, still pressed against Lily's chest. "Did you just offer to move into a millionaire's house to babysit a pink dog?" "I did not offer to move in. I offered daily visits. Daily visits to a millionaire's estate. To fix a dog, you turned into a flamingo." Charlie let out a laugh that sounded like surrender. "Lily Beaumont, you are either the bravest woman in Savannah or the most ridiculous. I honestly cannot tell which." Lily looked at the pink paw prints, leading from the grooming table to the front door and back again. She looked at Gerald the Fern, who still had no advice. "Both," she said. "Definitely both." The address arrived on Lily's phone at 7 the next morning. No greeting, no context, just a pin on a map and the words, "Gate code 4491, arrive by 9. She pulled into the long, oak-lined drive at 8:53 ZA, and her old Honda Civic looked like it had wandered into the wrong zip code. Spanish moss hung from live oaks that had been growing since before the Civil War. The gravel crunched under tires that needed replacing 3 months ago. The estate opened up past the tree line. White columns, a wraparound porch that could seat 40, a lawn so green it looked painted. "Oh, Gerald," she murmured to the dashboard fern she had brought along for moral support. "We are not in Ardsley Park anymore." A man was waiting on the front steps. Not Rhett. This one was older, mid-50s, with silver at his temples, and the posture of someone who had been standing in exactly the right spot for a very long time. "Miss Beaumont?" He extended a hand. "Wade Coulter. I manage the estate." "Lily." She shook his hand and glanced at the house. "Is it always this much?" It is precisely this much. Wade's mouth twitched at one corner. Mr. Donovan is waiting in the study. He has prepared terms. Terms for grooming a dog. Terms for everything. Miss Lily, it is how he is built. Wade held the door open. The dog is in the east sunroom. She has been sitting by the window since 6. I believe she's waiting for you. Lily stepped inside. The foyer smelled like lemon polish and old wood. A staircase curved upward toward a chandelier that probably cost more than her entire education, which, given that she had dropped out of veterinary school, was not the highest bar. She followed Wade down a hallway lined with framed architectural renderings. Every wall was straight, every surface clean, every object placed with deliberate precision. "Does anyone actually live here?" she asked. "Mr. Donovan lives here." "That is not what I asked." Wade paused. He turned and looked at her with an expression that was difficult to read. "No," he said. "No one has lived here in quite some time." He knocked twice on a mahogany door and opened it. Rhett Donovan sat behind a desk the size of a small boat. He wore a white shirt with the sleeves down, cuffs buttoned, collar sharp. Behind him, floor-to-ceiling windows showed the Wilmington River catching the morning light. Miss Beaumont. He did not stand. Mr. Donovan. She sat without being invited and crossed one ankle over the other. "Your estate manager said you prepared terms. I brought a fern." He looked at Gerald, sitting in his terracotta pot on Lily's lap. He looked back at her. "You brought a plant." "He calms me. His name is Gerald." The silence lasted 3 full seconds. Wade coughed into his fist and stepped out of the room. "Here is what I propose." Rhett slid a folder across the desk. "You will stay in the guest cottage on the property for the duration of the coat restoration. Daily treatments, documented progress, weekly photographs for my show handler to review." "Stay here?" Lily opened the folder. The pages inside were typed, formatted, and looked suspiciously like a legal agreement. "I thought we were talking about daily visits." "Daily visits are inefficient. The dog needs consistent care, minimal stress, and a stable environment. You said that yourself." He leaned back. "The cottage has a private entrance, a kitchen, and a workspace that can be converted for grooming. You will have full access to the estate grounds, but not the main house, unless escorted." "Unless escorted." Like a prisoner with better landscaping. Like a professional providing a service. She scanned the document. Compensation was listed on page 2. The number had too many zeros. "This is generous. It is what the dog is worth. The dog's name is Duchess. I'm aware of my own dog's name. You called her the dog 3 times in the last 30 seconds. Lily closed the folder and set it on her knee. Gerald sat on the other. "I have conditions." His eyebrow moved exactly 1/8 of an inch upward. "You have conditions. I need to visit my mother 3 times a week. She has multiple sclerosis and she lives alone. I also need access to my grooming shop on Tuesdays and Thursdays for my regular clients. And I need to be allowed to cook my own meals, because I saw your kitchen on the way in, and it looks like it has never been touched by a human hand. The kitchen is fully functional. Functional is not the same as used." She tilted her head. "Do you eat at that desk?" He did not answer. That was answer enough. "Your conditions are acceptable," he said after a pause, "except the cooking. My housekeeper prepares meals. Then I will eat what she makes and cook what I want on the side. I'm warning you now, it will smell, and there may be smoke." "Smoke? I am an excellent groomer and a catastrophic cook. Everyone has a weakness." Another silence, longer this time. Rhett's pen tapped once on the desk surface, and Lily caught it, the smallest crack in the architecture of his control. He had not expected her to negotiate. "Agreed," he said. "Move in tomorrow. Wade will arrange the cottage." She stood and tucked Gerald under one arm. "One more thing." He waited. "Where is Duchess?" "East sunroom, down the hall. Second door on the left. Lily walked to the door. She stopped with her hand on the frame. You know, most people would have just sued me. Most people do not offer to move into a stranger's home to fix a mistake they made. Fair point. She shifted Gerald to her other arm. Thank you for not suing me. The week is young, Miss Beaumont. She smiled. He did not. But something behind his eyes rearranged itself, a flicker of something that was not quite irritation and not quite anything else. She found the east sunroom without difficulty. Duchess was sitting on a window seat, her pink fur glowing in the morning light like a small, ridiculous sunrise. The dog's tail started moving the moment Lily appeared in the doorway. "Hey, Your Highness!" Lily set Gerald on the windowsill and sat beside the dog. Duchess climbed immediately into her lap and pressed her pink face against Lily's collarbone. "We are going to be roommates. You, me, and Gerald." Wade appeared in the doorway, arms folded. He watched the dog settle into Lily's lap with the ease of someone coming home. "Miss Lily," he said quietly. She looked up. "That dog has not sat in anyone's lap in 3 years. He paused. "Not since Mrs. Donovan left." Lily looked down at Duchess. The dog's eyes were already closing. "This house has been holding its breath for a long time," Wade said. He turned to go. "I think it just exhaled." The guest cottage was nicer than Lily's apartment, her shop, and possibly her entire life trajectory combined. A small living room with a stone fireplace. A bedroom with white linen and windows that faced the river. A kitchenette where she would inevitably commit crimes against culinary science. She set Gerald on the kitchen windowsill and placed her suitcase on the bed. Duchess followed her from room to room, pink tail swinging like a fuzzy metronome. "All right, Your Highness." Lily crouched and rubbed the dog behind the ears. "Day 1. Let us start with a clarifying treatment and see if we can get you down to a softer rose by the weekend." She spent the morning in the converted workspace Wade had prepared in the carriage house. Professional grooming table, adjustable lighting, a cabinet stocked with coat treatments that cost more per ounce than anything Lily had ever owned. By noon, Duchess was a marginally lighter shade of pink. Progress. Lily walked the dog across the estate grounds to stretch her legs. The gardens surprised her. Formal hedges, gravel paths, a fountain that had not run in years. Everything was structurally perfect and emotionally abandoned. Rose bushes that had not been pruned. A flower bed full of weeds choking out the daylilies. "Somebody used to love this garden," she said to Duchess, and then somebody stopped. She pulled a weed without thinking, then another, then 3 more. "Miss Lily." Wade appeared on the path behind her, carrying a glass of lemonade. "The garden has not had attention in some time." "I can see that." She took the lemonade and drank half of it. "Who planted it?" "Mrs. Donovan." Wade's voice held the careful neutrality of someone choosing each word like a step across a frozen creek. "She left 3 years ago, and he just let it die. He let several things die." Wade took the empty glass. "Would you like gardening gloves? There is a pair in the tool shed." "I would love gardening gloves." That afternoon, she attacked the flower bed with the same focused chaos she brought to everything. Duchess sat beside her in the dirt, pink paws gathering brown dust, watching with what Lily interpreted as approval. At 5:30, she decided to test the cottage kitchen. She had purchased groceries on the way in: eggs, butter, flour, and optimism. The banana pudding was her mother's recipe. June Beaumont had made it every Sunday for 30 years, and Lily had inherited the recipe along with an enthusiastic inability to execute it without incident. The first batch burned. The second batch was too runny. The third batch caught the edge of the dish on the counter, slid, and deposited itself on the kitchen floor in a magnificent yellow splatter. Duchess ate the floor pudding with great enthusiasm. "Do not judge me," Lily told the dog. "I was trying to make something beautiful. The fourth batch somehow worked, golden on top, creamy underneath. She covered it with foil and left it on the counter, a small victory in a day of moderate chaos." At 7, Wade knocked on the cottage door. "Miss Lily, Mr. Donovan is hosting a business dinner at the main house this evening. He asks that you remain in the cottage until the guests depart." Remain in the cottage. She wiped banana pudding off her elbow. Like Rapunzel, but with a dog. Like a guest respecting the host's privacy. Wade paused. "The dinner should conclude by 10. Who is the guest?" "A Mr. Victor Crane. He runs Crane Capital, real estate." Wade's tone shifted by a single degree, cooler, more precise. "Mr. Donovan does not enjoy these dinners. Then why does he have them?" Wade considered this. "Because some battles are fought at dinner tables, Miss Lily." She stayed in the cottage. She did, for exactly 47 minutes. Then Duchess needed her evening walk, and the path she had walked that morning happened to pass by the main house terrace. And the terrace doors were open because the September evening was warm. She was not eavesdropping. She was walking a dog, a very pink, very visible dog. Through the terrace windows, she could see 2 men at a dining table. Rhett sat at the head, spine straight, face neutral. Across from him sat a man she had not seen before, sandy-haired, stocky, wearing a suit that tried too hard. A gold watch caught the candlelight every time he moved his wrist. The waterfront parcels are undervalued, and you know it. The sandy-haired man leaned forward. His voice carried through the open doors like oil on water. "3 properties, Donovan. That is all I'm asking." "You are not asking." Rhett's voice was flat. "You are positioning. I am offering a partnership. You are offering a leash." Rhett set down his wine glass without drinking from it. "The answer is no." The sandy-haired man sat back. His fingers found the gold watch. "You should reconsider. I have a longer memory than most people give me credit for." The words landed with a weight that exceeded their surface meaning. Lily watched Rhett's face. Nothing moved. Not his jaw, not his eyes, not his hands. But something behind the stillness shifted, the way a building shifts before the first crack appears. "Good night, Crane," Rhett said. Duchess chose that moment to sneeze, a pink, audible, impossible to ignore sneeze. Both men turned toward the terrace. Lily froze, one hand on the leash, the other holding Gerald's pot, standing in full view with a glowing pink dog at her feet. Victor Crane looked at her, then at the dog, then back at her. "Interesting company you keep, Donovan." His mouth curved. Not a smile. Something thinner. Rhett stood. "Miss Beaumont, the cottage is in the other direction." "I was walking the dog. The dog has a yard." The dog wanted a scenic walk. Lily tightened her grip on the leash. Duchess wagged her tail at both men with equal enthusiasm. Victor Crane walked past her on his way to his car. He paused. Up close, his eyes were pale blue and calculating, like a man pricing real estate he intended to acquire. "You must be the groomer." He extended his hand. "Victor Crane." "Lily Beaumont." She shook it. His grip was firm and one beat too long. "Interesting place for a groomer to be this late, on this estate." He released her hand. Then again, "Donovan has always had unconventional taste." He walked to a silver sedan, climbed in, and drove away. The taillights disappeared down the oak-lined drive. Lily turned. Rhett was standing on the terrace, arms at his sides, watching the space where the car had been. "I am sorry," she said. "I did not mean to interrupt." He did not respond immediately. When he did, his voice had a texture she had not heard before. Not cold, not commanding, tired. "Keep the dog off the terrace during business hours, Miss Beaumont." "Understood," She paused. For what it is worth, that man smiles like someone who practices in a mirror. Rhett looked at her, just looked. Something moved across his face, fast, unreadable, and then it was gone. "Good night, Miss Beaumont." "Good night, Mr. Donovan." She walked back to the cottage with Duchess trotting beside her and Gerald tucked under her arm. The night air smelled like Spanish moss and river water, and something she could not name, something that sat at the edge of a feeling she was not ready to examine. Inside the cottage, she set Gerald on the sill and looked at the covered banana pudding on the counter. "Tomorrow," she told the fern, "I am bringing that pudding to the main house. That man has not eaten a homemade dessert in 3 years, and it shows." Gerald rustled in the breeze from the open window. Lily chose to interpret that as agreement. Lily had been at the estate for 5 days when Rhett Donovan did something she did not expect. He watched her work. She was in the carriage house with Duchess, applying a coat treatment that required 12 minutes of contact time. The dog lay on the grooming table with the patience of someone who understood the process. Her pink fur covered in a white conditioning mask that made her look like a frosted cupcake. "Does that hurt her?" Rhett stood in the doorway, hands in his pockets. No tie for the first time since she had met him. "Not at all. She thinks she is at a spa." Lily smoothed the mask along the dog's spine. Bichon coats hold dye in the outer layer. The treatments lift it gradually without damaging the undercoat. We should see significant fading by week 2. He stepped inside. She noticed he moved carefully around the equipment, studying the bottles and tools the way he probably studied architectural plans. "You know what you are doing," he said. It was not a question. "I have been grooming dogs for 5 years. Before that, I did 3 years of pre-veterinary coursework at the University of Georgia." She rinsed her hands in the basin. "I know coat biology better than most veterinarians." He leaned against the counter. 3 years of pre-vet. Why did you stop?" The question landed like a stone dropped into still water. Lily reached for a towel and dried her hands slowly. "Life happened." She smiled. The smile was the one she kept in reserve for moments exactly like this. Bright, quick, designed to redirect. "You know how it is. Plans change. I found grooming, and it turned out I was good at it. That is not an answer. It is the answer I have." He watched her for a beat too long. She could feel the precision of his attention, the way he catalogued what she said against what she did not say, the way a man who ran numbers for a living could see when the math did not add up. "My mother got sick," she said, and the words came out before she could wrap them in a joke. "Multiple sclerosis. I was 22. My father had been dead since I was 6, and there was nobody else. So I came home." The carriage house went quiet. Duchess lifted her head and looked between them. Lily opened her mouth to say something funny, to say something about how the tuition refund barely covered 3 months of rent, or how she had once told Charlie that dropping out was just a gap decade, or any of the dozen deflections she had polished smooth over 13 years of practice. Nothing came out. The joke was right there. She could feel it at the edge of her tongue, ready to launch, ready to turn the moment into something lighter, and for the first time in as long as she could remember, she did not reach for it. Rhett did not fill the silence. He did not offer sympathy or a solution or an opinion. He just stood there, leaning against the counter with his hands in his pockets, and let the silence be what it was. Duchess sneezed. A glob of conditioning mask landed on Rhett's shoe. Lily burst out laughing, not the deflection laugh, the real one, the one that came from the belly and shook the shoulders and made the eyes water. "Your dog," she managed, "has the worst timing in the state of Georgia." Rhett looked down at his shoe. He looked at Duchess. The dog wagged her tail, sending a spray of white conditioning mask across the grooming table. "Those are $600 shoes," he said. "Were," Lily corrected. Those were $600 shoes. Something happened to his mouth, not a smile, not even close. But the line of it changed, loosened by a fraction, the way a doorframe shifts when you remove a bolt. Duchess, sensing an opportunity in the changed atmosphere, leapt off the grooming table, snatched one of Rhett's shoes from beside the door, the mate to the one she had claimed on the first day, and tore across the carriage house with it. "Duchess!" Rhett's voice carried the weight of a man accustomed to being obeyed. "Drop it!" Duchess did not drop it. She ran behind the grooming station, shoe in mouth, tail wagging with the specific joy of a dog who understood exactly what she was doing. "Duchess, now!" The dog lay down behind the station and rested her chin on the shoe. Lily wiped her eyes. "I think she is making a collection. She is destroying my wardrobe one shoe at a time. She is expressing her artistic vision." Lily crouched near the station. "Your Highness, give the man his shoe back." Duchess looked at Lily, looked at Rhett, looked at the shoe. She stood up, trotted past Rhett without a glance, and dropped the shoe at Lily's feet. "She gave it to you," Rhett said. "She trusts me. She trusts the person who turned her pink." "Exactly." Lily picked up the shoe and held it out to him. "She trusts the person who made a mess and stayed to clean it up. That is more than most people do." He took the shoe. Their fingers did not touch, but the space between them carried a charge that had not been there 5 minutes ago. "Miss Beaumont." "Lily, Miss Beaumont." He said it deliberately, as if maintaining the formality was the last wall standing. "I should not have asked about veterinary school. That was personal." "You should not have." She shrugged. "But you did. And I told you the truth, so now you owe me one." "Owe you one what?" "One truth. Any truth. Does not have to be tonight. Does not have to be tomorrow." She set the conditioning supplies in the cabinet and lifted Duchess off the floor. "But someday, when I ask, you answer, fair." He held her gaze. The grey-green of his eyes had a depth she had not noticed before. Layers, like the Wilmington River on a cloudy day, where the surface showed one thing and the current ran another. "Fair," he said. He walked out. She heard his footsteps on the gravel, measured and precise, growing fainter as he crossed toward the main house. Lily held Duchess against her chest. The dog's conditioning mask was soaking into her shirt. She did not care. "Did I just negotiate an emotional debt with a millionaire?" she asked the dog. Duchess licked her chin. "Right." Lily looked toward the main house. The study light was on. She could see his silhouette at the desk, already working, already behind the walls he had built around himself. At midnight, she woke to get a glass of water and looked out the cottage window. The study light was still on. She could see him standing at the window, looking out at the river, alone in a house with 20 rooms and nothing that felt like home. She stood there watching for a long moment. Then she went back to bed, and for the first time since moving in, she did not tell herself a joke before falling asleep. The shift happened on a Tuesday, not with a speech or a confrontation or anything that would have made sense in a story. It happened because of scrambled eggs and a dog who understood loyalty better than most people. Lily was in the main house kitchen. She had been granted cooking access after Wade intervened on her behalf, arguing that the smell of someone using the kitchen was good for the estate's morale. She was attempting scrambled eggs. The pan was too hot. The butter was already browning. She had cracked an egg on the counter, and half the shell was in the bowl. Duchess sat at her feet, watching with the calm patience of a dog who had learned that Lily's cooking always resulted in floor food. "I am going to master eggs," Lily told the dog. "Today is the day." She poured the egg mixture into the pan. It sizzled violently. She stirred with a fork because she could not find the whisk, and the eggs began congealing into something that resembled a yellow sponge. "That is not right," she muttered. The smoke alarm went off. She grabbed a towel and waved it under the detector, one hand still holding the fork, the other reaching for the pan handle. which she had forgotten was hot. She yelped, dropped the fork, knocked the pan, and sent the eggs sliding across the stovetop in a rubbery yellow sheet. The smoke alarm continued screaming. Rhett appeared in the kitchen doorway, hair still damp from his morning run. No suit, just a grey shirt and dark trousers. He looked at the smoking pan, the eggs on the stovetop, the towel in her hand, and the dog eating a piece of shell off the floor. "This is what access to my kitchen looks like," he said. "This is what learning looks like." She climbed down from the stool she had used to reach the detector. The eggs did not cooperate. Eggs do not have agency. He crossed the kitchen, turned off the burner, and moved the pan to a cold surface with the efficiency of a man who solved problems by default. They cannot cooperate or refuse. Tell that to these eggs. They chose violence. He looked at the congealed yellow mass. You were supposed to lower the heat after the butter melted. You cook. I read. He opened a window. The alarm stopped. Fresh air carried in the smell of the garden, jasmine and warm grass. Anyone who reads can cook. It is just chemistry. Chemistry is just organized chaos. Chemistry is precisely the opposite of chaos. And yet here we are. She gestured at the smoking kitchen. Chaos and chemistry in one room. He did not respond, but he did not leave either. He stood by the window with his arms crossed, and something in the stance was different from the first day, looser, less guarded, as if the smoke alarm had startled something open in him that the $600 shoes and the mahogany desk had kept sealed. Duchess finished the eggshell, trotted across the kitchen, and sat directly between them. She looked up at Rhett. Then she stood, walked to Lily, and climbed into the chair beside her. She rested her pink chin on the armrest and closed her eyes. Rhett watched. "She does not do that for me," he said quietly. "She does not do it for authority." Lily scratched behind the dog's ears. "She does it for warmth. I feed her. I walk her. I have given her everything she needs." "Everything except the mess," Lily smiled. "Dogs do not want perfect Rhett. They want present." It was the first time she had used his first name without the Mr. attached. She had not planned it. It landed between them like a coin on a counter, small, bright, impossible to ignore. He did not correct her. "I have a conference call in 20 minutes, he said. He turned toward the door. "Rhett," he stopped. "Thank you for turning off the stove." She paused, "and for not calling the fire department." "The morning is young, Lily." Lily, not Miss Beaumont. Not the formality he had wrapped around every interaction like armor. Just her name, spoken the way a person speaks a word they have been thinking about but had not yet said aloud. He left the kitchen. His footsteps faded down the hallway. Lily looked at Duchess. "Did he just call me Lily?" Duchess wagged her tail. "He did." She sat back in the chair and let out a breath she had not realized she was holding. He absolutely did. That afternoon, she drove to her mother's cottage on East Gaston Street. June was on the screen porch in her wheelchair, a blanket across her knees, reading a novel with a bookmark shaped like a magnolia. "You look different," June said before Lily was through the gate. "I look like a woman who survived a smoke alarm and a millionaire's kitchen in the same morning." "You look lighter." June folded the book closed. "Come sit." Lily sat on the porch step and leaned against the railing. The azaleas were blooming along the walkway. A mockingbird was arguing with itself in the oak tree. "Tell me about the house," June said. "It is beautiful and enormous and the loneliest place I have ever been." Lily pulled at a thread on her jeans. "He has 20 rooms and he uses 3. The garden is dying. The dog follows me everywhere, and today he called me by my first name." June was quiet for a moment. "How old is he?" 38. "And he lives alone?" He has Wade. That is the estate manager, and a housekeeper who comes 3 days a week. But yes, he lives alone. June reached down and took Lily's hand. Her grip was weaker than it used to be. The MS had taken the strength from her fingers years ago, but the warmth was the same. That man is not keeping you there for the dog, sweetheart. Mom, I dyed his championship show dog pink. He is keeping me there because I owe him. Owing someone a debt and staying to pay it are two different things. June squeezed her hand. You are staying because something in that house needs you, and something in you needs to be needed. Lily opened her mouth to argue, to make a joke, to deflect with a story about Gerald the fern or the banana pudding or the eggs. But June had always been able to see through her the way morning light passed through gauze, gently, completely, without breaking anything. Maybe, Lily said, maybe it does. She drove back to the estate at dusk. The gate opened with the code she now knew by heart. The oaks lined the drive like old friends. The carriage house light was on. Wade had left it for her. In the cottage, Duchess was waiting on the bed, curled into a pink circle, one ear folded over her eye. Lily changed into pajamas and lay beside the dog. Through the window, she could see the main house. The study light was on. But tonight, she noticed something she had not seen before. The kitchen light was on, too. He was in the kitchen, at 9 at night. In a kitchen he never used. She watched for a long minute. Then she smiled, the real smile, the one that was not a joke, and turned off the lamp. Patricia Donovan arrived at 11 on a Saturday in a silver town car with South Carolina plates and the posture of a retired judge who had never stopped sentencing. Lily was in the garden, elbow deep in a flower bed, when Wade appeared on the path with the expression of a man delivering a weather warning. "Miss Lily, Mr. Donovan's mother has arrived." His mother? Lily looked down at her dirt-covered hands, her stained jeans, the pink dog sleeping in a patch of sun beside her. "Right now?" "She does not call ahead." Wade paused. "She prefers the element of surprise." Lily wiped her hands on her jeans and walked toward the main house. Patricia was standing in the foyer, examining a framed photograph on the wall with the attention of someone looking for evidence. She was tall, silver-haired, dressed in cream linen that probably had its own insurance policy. When she turned, her eyes landed on Lily with the precision of a gavel finding a bench. "You must be the groomer," Patricia said. "Lily Beaumont." She extended a hand. Patricia looked at the dirt under her fingernails and shook it anyway. "My son tells me you are living on the property." "In the guest cottage. I'm caring for Duchess until her coat grows back. The pink dog." Patricia's mouth compressed into a line that suggested she had opinions about pink dogs and the people who created them. "How did that happen, exactly?" "A labradoodle, a mix-up, and bad luck. That is a peculiar combination. It is a grooming shop. Peculiar combinations are the business model." Patricia studied her the way a judge studies a defendant who has just said something unexpectedly interesting. She turned to Rhett, who had appeared in the hallway with the rigid posture of a man bracing for impact. "Rhett, darling, you did not mention she was charming." "I did not mention her at all," he said. "Precisely." Patricia set her purse on the foyer table. "That is how I know she matters." Lunch was served in the dining room by the housekeeper. Patricia sat at one end, Rhett at the other, and the space between them hummed with the kind of tension that only families generate, the silent, electrified distance between two people who love each other but have forgotten how to say so. Lily sat in the middle, eating roasted chicken and watching the conversation like a tennis match played with words instead of balls. "Have you seen the Henderson property in Mount Pleasant?" Patricia asked. "I have a team evaluating it. The Cranes are also evaluating it. Victor Crane put in a preliminary offer last week." Rhett set down his fork. "How do you know that?" "I am retired, Rhett. I am not dead." Patricia sipped her water. That man has been circling your portfolio like a vulture for 18 months. If you do not pay attention, he will take what matters. I am paying attention. To your business, yes. Patricia looked at Lily. To everything else, I am less certain. The silence that followed could have supported a bridge. Miss Beaumont. Patricia turned her full attention across the table. What do you do when you are not grooming dogs? I garden, I burn things in the kitchen, and I talk to plants. Lily met her gaze without flinching. I also care for my mother, who has multiple sclerosis. 3 times a week I drive to her house and make sure she is eating and that her medications are current. Patricia's expression shifted, not softening, exactly, more like a recalculation, the same face a judge makes when new evidence arrives. Your mother is ill. She has been managing it for 13 years. She is the strongest person I know. And you left school to care for her. I left veterinary school. Yes? Lily took a sip of water. It was not a sacrifice. It was a decision. There is a difference. Patricia looked at her son. Rhett was watching Lily with an expression he probably did not know he was wearing, something between recognition and discomfort, as if she had said something that applied to more than just her own life. Well, Patricia said, at least she is interesting. After lunch, Patricia found Lily in the cottage kitchen. Lily was making banana pudding, the 5th attempt since arriving at the estate, and the first that had not resulted in a minor disaster. What is that? Patricia stood in the cottage doorway, one hand on the frame. Banana pudding, my mother's recipe. Lily spooned the custard over the wafer layer. Would you like some? I do not eat dessert before 4. It is 3:58. Patricia paused. One eyebrow rose. You are very forward for a groomer, and you are very critical for a guest. Lily held out a small bowl. But this pudding does not care about titles. It is good for judges and groomers alike. Patricia took the bowl. She tried a bite. She tried a second bite. She set the spoon down and looked at Lily with an expression that Lily would later describe to Charlie as grudging surrender. It is acceptable, Patricia said. High praise from a judge. Former judge. Once a judge, always a judge. Lily smiled. My mother says the same thing. Patricia finished the bowl. She did not ask for seconds, but she stood in the cottage kitchen for another 10 minutes, asking about June's MS, about the grooming shop, about how long Lily intended to stay. Until Duchess is show ready, Lily said. And then I go home. Patricia set the empty bowl on the counter. That dog has not looked this healthy in years. Whatever you are doing, it is not just about the coat. She left the cottage without saying goodbye, which Lily was beginning to understand was a Donovan family trait. That evening, after Patricia's town car had disappeared down the oak drive, Lily was in the garden pulling weeds when she heard Rhett's phone ring through the open study window. His voice carried clearly in the still air, controlled, precise, with an edge she had not heard before. I told you no, Crane. Victor's response was muffled, but Rhett's next words were not. That is not a negotiation. That is a threat. Silence. Then Victor's voice, louder, a single sentence that landed like a hammer on glass. Rhett's response was ice. You have 3 weeks to withdraw your offer. After that, my lawyers handle it. You forget, Donovan. Victor's voice was clear now, sharp through the phone speaker. I know things about your finances that your lawyers would not want made public. The waterfront deal, the fund from 2021. Do I need to be more specific? The study went silent. Lily pressed her back against the garden wall, trowel in her hand, Duchess sitting at her feet. She should not have heard that. She should not have been there. But she had been. And the words from 2021 sat in her mind like a rock she could not set down. Duchess pressed her nose against Lily's ankle. The garden smelled like warm earth and jasmine, and somewhere in the main house, a man was standing alone in his study, facing something he had been running from for 3 years. Lily stood. She brushed the dirt from her knees. She picked up Duchess and walked back to the cottage, and she did not look at the study window, but she wanted to. The key appeared on the cottage kitchen counter one morning with no note. A single brass key on a plain ring, sitting beside the sugar bowl as if it had always been there. Wade was crossing the lawn when Lily caught up to him, key in hand. "This was on my counter. Mr. Donovan left it." Wade adjusted his reading glasses. "It opens the study. He said you mentioned wanting to read during the afternoon while Duchess's treatment set. He gave me a key to his study." Lily turned the brass in her fingers. "The room he told me I could not enter without an escort. He changed his mind. People like Rhett Donovan do not change their minds. They issue revised instructions. Call it what you like, Miss Lily." Wade's mouth twitched. "The door is open." She waited until after lunch. Duchess's afternoon treatment was setting. A 45-minute conditioning mask, and the carriage house smelled like coconut and lavender. The dog was asleep on the table, wrapped in a warm towel, looking like a pink burrito. Lily walked to the main house and turned the key in the study lock. The room was different without Rhett in it, warmer. The afternoon light came through the river-facing windows at an angle that turned the mahogany desk golden. Bookshelves lined 3 walls, floor to ceiling. She ran her fingers along the spines. Architecture, business theory, biographies of men who built things. Then she saw the cabinet in the corner. Tinted glass doors, slightly ajar. Inside, neat rows of vinyl records in paper sleeves. She pulled one out. Otis Redding. She pulled another. Etta James, Sam Cooke, Aretha Franklin, Ray Charles. The collection went deep, 200 records, maybe more, all soul and jazz, and the kind of music that made you close your eyes and sway. "Oh," she whispered. "You are full of surprises, Mr. Donovan." She found a turntable behind the cabinet, connected to a small set of speakers. She set the Otis Redding record on the platter, lowered the needle, and the room filled with a voice that felt like warm honey over gravel. Duchess appeared in the doorway. The conditioning mask was still set, so her fur was damp and her expression was one of supreme indifference to her own appearance. She trotted into the study, circled twice, and lay down on the rug beside the turntable. "You like Otis," Lily said. "Of course you do. You are a lady of taste." She danced. Not because anyone was watching, not because the moment called for it. She danced because the music was beautiful, and the room was warm, and the dog was watching her with half-closed eyes. And sometimes the best thing a person can do with a room full of hidden beauty is move through it. She spun Duchess in a slow circle, the dog's damp paws on her wrists, and laughed at the absurdity of a woman dancing with a pink dog in a millionaire's study to Otis Redding on a Tuesday afternoon. That was when she saw the photograph. It sat on the lower shelf behind a row of records, half hidden, as if someone had pushed it there to forget it without being able to throw it away. A silver frame, a woman with dark hair and a sharp smile, standing on the deck of a sailboat. She was beautiful in the way expensive things are beautiful, polished, precise, designed to be admired. Lily picked up the frame. There was no name on it, but the woman was wearing a ring on her left hand, and the sailboat had Whitfield written on the hull, his wife. She set the photograph back. The music kept playing, but the warmth of the room had shifted, just enough to notice, like a window cracked open in winter. She walked to the cottage. The afternoon light was different now. The Spanish moss hung heavier. Duchess trotted beside her, oblivious. In the cottage, she called Charlie. "He still has her photograph," Lily said. "Whose photograph?" "His ex-wife. It was hidden behind the records in his study." "Hidden is not displayed," Charlie's voice was practical, measured. Hidden means he does not want to see it, but cannot make himself get rid of it. Or it means he is still in love with her. Lily Beaumont, you do not know the story. I know a photograph when I see one. You know a frame and a face. You do not know the context. Charlie paused. Have you asked him about it? Of course not. Then you are making up a story to match your worst expectation. You do that. It is your thing. My thing is talking to plants and burning eggs. Your thing is assuming you do not deserve the good stuff, and then finding evidence to prove yourself right. Charlie's voice softened. Ask him, or let it go. But do not build a wall out of a photograph. Lily said nothing. Outside, the study light came on. She could see Rhett's silhouette, moving through the room, probably past the turntable that was still playing, probably past the rug where Duchess had been sleeping. She wondered if he would notice the record had been changed. She wondered if he would care. That evening, Wade found Lily in the garden, pulling weeds by the light of the carriage house lamp. Miss Lily, the estate has not had music in it since Mrs. Donovan left. Wade stood with his hands behind his back, looking at the main house. He heard it from the hallway. He stood there for 4 minutes before he walked away. 4 minutes. I counted. Wade turned to go. He did not ask you to stop. Lily pulled another weed. The garden was looking better, new growth pushing through where she had cleared the dead wood, daylilies reaching for the light. A single rosebud forming on a branch she had pruned last week. Wade, he paused, has anyone been in that study besides him in 3 years? No, Miss Lily. He looked at her over his glasses. Not a single soul, until you. He walked back to his cottage. The carriage house light went off. The garden fell quiet. Lily sat in the dirt and looked at the rosebud, something that had been dormant for 3 years, waking up because someone cleared the way. She did not know if she was thinking about the garden or the man. Let us play a little game with those who only read the comments. Type Pink Duchess in the comments. Only those who made it this far will understand. Now let us continue with the story. The smell of burning bacon woke her at 6 in the morning. Lily sat up in bed, sniffed the air, and looked at Duchess. The dog was already at the cottage door, ears forward, tail ticking back and forth. That is not my smoke, Lily said. For once. She pulled on a sweatshirt and slippers and followed the smell across the lawn to the main house. The kitchen windows were fogged with grease. Through the glass, she could see a tall figure standing at the stove in a white undershirt and dark trousers, holding a spatula like a weapon he did not know how to use. Rhett Donovan was cooking. She pushed open the kitchen door. The scene was catastrophic. 4 strips of bacon lay in a pan, curled and blackened beyond recognition. A carton of eggs sat on the counter. 3 of them cracked open on the marble, not in a bowl, on the marble. Flour dusted the stovetop for no apparent reason. A bowl of batter sat beside the sink, looking like cement mixed with regret. What happened here? Lily stood in the doorway, arms crossed, taking in the full magnitude of the disaster. He did not turn around. I am making breakfast. You are committing breakfast. She stepped inside and peered over his shoulder at the pan. Those are not pancakes. They are not finished. They are finished. They just do not know it yet. She reached past him and turned off the burner. What were you trying to make? Pancakes and bacon. He set the spatula down. There was flour on his forearm and a smear of batter on his jaw. Wade mentioned that you eat cereal every morning because you cannot cook breakfast. I thought... He stopped. The sentence hung in the air, unfinished, and the fact that he did not complete it said more than any ending would have. You thought you would make me breakfast. Lily leaned against the counter. You, the man who eats at his desk. I read the recipe. Rhett, the recipe cannot help you if you put flour in the bacon pan. That was an accident. So was the pink dog. Accidents are our love language. The word landed between them like a dropped glass. Lily heard it the same moment he did. She had not meant it, or she had, in the way people mean the things they say before they are ready to say them, sideways, half-hidden, deniable if pressed. He looked at her. She looked at the bacon. I meant our communication style, she said. You said love language. I said it in the context of accidents. It is a metaphor. It is a very specific metaphor. Lily picked up one of the blackened bacon strips and broke it in half. Is this supposed to bend? Bacon is supposed to be crispy. This is not crispy. This is archaeology. She set it down. Let me show you something. She took over the kitchen with the natural authority of someone who had failed at cooking so many times that failure itself had become expertise. She cracked 3 eggs into a bowl, cleanly, no shells, and whisked them with a fork. Low heat, she said, placing a fresh pan on the burner. Butter, not oil. You do not touch the eggs for the first 30 seconds. Then gentle folds. Not stirring. Folding. He stood beside her, close enough that she could smell cedar and soap and something underneath that was just him. He watched her hands with the focused attention he normally reserved for financial projections. When did you learn this? He asked. This morning, apparently. She folded the eggs. They moved like yellow silk. My mother taught me the technique. I just never had the patience to follow it until I had someone to cook for. The eggs came out soft and golden. She slid them onto a plate and set it in front of him at the kitchen island. Eat, she said. He picked up a fork. He tasted the eggs. He tasted them again. These are good. I know. She poured herself a glass of orange juice. Your turn tomorrow. My turn to what? To try again. She smiled. You do not get to make one catastrophic breakfast and then quit. That is my department. He set down his fork. The kitchen was warm and smelled like butter and bacon and failure and something else, something that had not been in this room in years. He looked at her across the island, and for a moment the architecture of his control was not a wall, but a window. And through it she could see the shape of a man who had tried to do something kind and had no idea how. I burned the bacon, he said quietly. Yes, you did. And the pancakes. Those were not pancakes. I am not sure what those were. And I put flour in the bacon pan. You did. Why did you put flour in the bacon pan? The recipe said to flour the surface. That was for the pancakes. I see that now, Lily laughed. He did not laugh, but something behind his eyes moved, the same something she had been seeing in glimpses since the first day. Warmer, closer, less like a man watching from behind glass, and more like a man standing in the room. She reached for a napkin on the counter. He reached for the same one. Their fingers touched. Not hands, fingers, the tips of them. The smallest possible contact between two people standing on opposite sides of a kitchen island. Neither moved. The touch lasted 2 seconds, maybe 3. The kind of seconds that rearranged the furniture in a room without anyone noticing until later. Then Duchess barked from the doorway. Both of them pulled back. Lily grabbed the napkin. Rhett grabbed his coffee mug. I should check on Duchess's treatment, Lily said. Of course. And you should clean this kitchen. I have a housekeeper. You made the mess. You clean the mess. She pointed at the flour-covered stovetop. That is how it works. She walked out with Duchess at her heels. At the door, she turned back. He was standing at the island, looking at the plate of eggs she had made for him, and his expression was the one people wear when they receive something they did not know they wanted. Rhett. He looked up. The breakfast was terrible. She paused. But the fact that you tried, that was not terrible at all. She left. The morning was warm and bright, and the Spanish moss was swaying, and somewhere in the kitchen behind her, a man who had not cooked a meal in 3 years was standing in a flower-covered room, holding a coffee mug, learning what it felt like to fail at something and have someone stay anyway. The storm hit at 4 in the afternoon with the kind of southern fury that turned the sky green and made the live oaks bend like they were praying. Wade appeared at the cottage door with a flashlight and a calm expression. "Power is likely to go. I have secured the carriage house and the kennel. There are candles and matches in the main house kitchen. I suggest you move inside until it passes." "Is Rhett in the house?" "He is. He cancelled his evening call." Wade handed her the flashlight. "I am heading to my cottage. At my age, storms are best survived horizontally." She gathered Duchess and Gerald the fern and crossed the lawn in the rain. The main house was warm and dim. Wade had been right about the power. The lights flickered twice and died as she stepped through the kitchen door. Rhett was in the study. Candlelight threw long shadows across the bookshelves. He had changed out of his business clothes into a dark sweater and trousers, and for once he did not look like a man running a company. He looked like a man sitting in a room with candles, waiting for a storm to pass. "Lost your electricity," Lily said from the doorway. "Lost the entire grid by the sound of it." He nodded at the chair across from his desk. "You can stay in here until the power returns." "In the study." She set Gerald on the windowsill and Duchess on the rug. "The room I was not supposed to enter without an escort." "Consider the storm your escort." She sat. The rain hammered the windows. Duchess curled into a ball between them, undisturbed. For a while, neither spoke. The candlelight moved across the room in small waves, and the silence was not awkward. It was the kind of silence that happens when two people run out of small talk and discover that what remains is something larger. "Your records are organized by year," Lily said. "Not alphabetically, not by genre, by the year you acquired them. You notice that. I spent an afternoon with them." She tucked her feet under herself. "The earliest ones are from 2012. The year your father died." He looked at her. The candlelight caught the thin scar along his jaw. "My father had a collection," he said, 300 records, all soul, all jazz. When he died, my mother gave them to Goodwill before I could get to Charleston." He paused. "I started rebuilding it. Same artists, same albums, different copies. You rebuilt your father's collection. I rebuilt what I could." She let that sit. Outside, thunder cracked so close the windows vibrated. "My father died when I was 6, she said. "Car accident on the way home from the quarry where he worked. I am sorry. I was too young to understand it. I just knew he stopped coming home." She picked at a thread on the chair arm. "My mother never talked about it, not because she did not want to, because every time she tried, I would make a joke. I was 6 years old and already deflecting." "You learned early. Too early." She looked at the candle flame. "I think I decided at 6 that if I was funny enough, nothing could hurt me. Turns out that is not true, but by the time I figured that out, the habit was load-bearing." He was watching her with an expression she had not seen before. Not the controlled assessment, not the businessman's evaluation. Something unguarded. The look of a person hearing their own experience described in someone else's voice. "Load-bearing," he repeated. "If I stop joking, the whole structure comes down." She smiled, and it was the tired version of her smile. Honest, small, not designed to redirect. "Your turn." "My turn. You owe me a truth. Remember?" The storm roared. A branch cracked somewhere on the property. Duchess lifted her head, decided it was not her problem, and went back to sleep. "Vanessa did not just leave me," Rhett said. "She stole from me." The words came out flat, deliberate, stripped of everything but fact. His voice carried the weight of a sentence he had rehearsed in his head 1,000 times but never said aloud. $400,000 from a joint development fund. She moved the money through shell accounts over 6 months while I was closing the Wilmington portfolio. He stared at the candle. I did not notice until the audit. By then she was gone. Did you report it? No. Why not? Because reporting it would have made it public, and public would have meant every partner, every investor, every competitor would know that Rhett Donovan had been robbed by his own wife. He exhaled. I could survive losing the money. I could not survive losing the reputation. So, you buried it. I buried it. I buried her. I buried everything that happened, and I built a wall around it, and I told myself that if I controlled every variable from that point forward, nothing like it could happen again. The rain eased from a roar to a hiss. The candles flickered. Duchess sighed in her sleep. And has it worked? Lily asked quietly. What do you think? She looked at the room, the rebuilt record collection, the locked study, the 20-room house where one man ate alone at a desk, the dog who preferred a stranger's lap to her owner's command. I think you are very good at building walls, she said, and very bad at knowing when to stop. He looked at her. She looked at him. The distance between their chairs was 3 feet, and in the candlelight it felt like 3 inches. You asked me why I stopped laughing, he said. I never asked you that. No. But you were going to. He leaned forward. His elbows rested on his knees. I stopped because it requires trust. To laugh, really laugh, you have to let go, and I stopped letting go. That is the saddest thing anyone has ever told me, she said, and I grew up without a father. I am not looking for sympathy. Good, because I am not offering it. She leaned forward too. I am offering something worse. I am offering to make you laugh again. That sounds like a threat. It is a promise. They were close now, close enough for the candlelight to show every detail. The scar on his jaw, the laugh lines at the corners of her eyes that had earned their place. Close enough for her to see the green in his grey eyes, and for him to see the brown in hers, and for both of them to see that the space between them was narrowing for reasons neither had planned. His phone rang. The sound shattered the room like a rock through glass. He pulled back. She pulled back. Duchess lifted her head and glared at the phone with the righteous indignation of a dog whose sleep had been disturbed. Rhett looked at the screen. His face changed. The warmth that had been building for the last hour drained out of it like water through a cracked foundation. I need to take this, he said. He stood and walked to the window. His voice dropped to a register Lily recognized from the terrace dinner, the January voice, cold and controlled. What do you want, Crane? The rest of the conversation was fragments, words she caught between thunder and rain. 3 weeks. Waterfront. Your call. When he hung up, he stood at the window for a long time. The rain had stopped. The clouds were breaking open, and the last light of the day was pushing through in long gold streaks. You should get back to the cottage, he said without turning around. The power should be back soon. Rhett. Good night, Lily. She gathered Duchess and Gerald and walked across the wet lawn. The air smelled like petrichor and river mud, and the memory of something that had almost happened and did not. In the cottage, she set the fern on the sill and lay down with the dog. Her hands were steady. Her heart was not. She replayed his words in the dark. The 400,000. The buried scandal. The wall he had built. The almost laugh, the almost everything. And she replayed Victor Crane's voice on the phone, thin and sharp, and wondered what a man like that could want badly enough to threaten someone who had already lost everything worth stealing. 3 days after the storm, Victor Crane found Lily in Forsyth Park. She was sitting on a bench near the fountain, throwing a ball for Duchess while the October sun warmed the Spanish moss overhead. The dog's pink coat had faded to a softer shade, blush almost, but she was still the most conspicuous animal in the park by a wide margin. "Miss Beaumont!" She turned. Victor was standing on the path behind her, hands in the pockets of a suit that was too expensive for a Saturday. The gold watch caught the light. "Mr. Crane!" She did not stand. "Are you following me, or is this the world's least charming coincidence?" "I was walking." He sat down uninvited, leaving exactly one bench slat between them. "Lovely dog, unusual color. She is on a journey." Lily threw the ball again. Duchess bounded after it, ears flying. "Is there something I can help you with?" "I was curious about you." Victor watched Duchess retrieve the ball and trot back with it. "The groomer who moved into the Donovan estate. People talk. People always talk. That is not a reason to listen. In Savannah, talking is an art form." He turned toward her. Up close, the pale blue eyes had a quality she could not name, not hostile, not friendly. Calculating. "How much has Donovan told you about his business?" "I groom his dog. I do not audit his books." "Of course." Victor smiled. The smile reached his mouth but stalled at his cheekbones. "I ask because Donovan is selective about the truth. He presents well, the estate, the suits, the reputation, but underneath there are cracks. Everyone has cracks. Not everyone hides a $400,000 crack." He let the number sit in the air between them like a match near paper. His former joint venture fund had irregularities, the kind that make investors nervous, the kind that, if they became public, would change how people view the man behind the desk. Lily's hands went still on the leash. Duchess dropped the ball at her feet and looked up, tail slowing. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you seem like a genuine person, and genuine people deserve to know when they are standing in someone else's wreckage." Victor stood. He adjusted his cuffs, a deliberate gesture, performed for her benefit. "I am not the villain here, Miss Beaumont. I am just the one paying attention." He walked away down the path, his silver sedan visible at the park entrance. The gold watch flashed once more as he rounded the corner. Lily sat on the bench for a long time. Duchess pressed against her leg, warm and solid, $400,000. The same number Rhett had told her during the storm. But coming from Victor's mouth, it sounded different, not like a confession, like an accusation. She drove back to the estate with the windows down, trying to let the wind clear the noise in her head. Rhett's words from the storm played on a loop. "I buried it. I buried her. I buried everything." And alongside them, Victor's words. "He presents well. But underneath, there are cracks." Both men were telling her about the same hole in the ground, but one had dug it and the other was circling it with a shovel. Or were they? She was pulling into the estate drive when the doubt crept in. She had known Rhett for 3 weeks. She had known Victor for the length of a park bench conversation. One of them had told her the truth in candlelight during a storm. The other had told her the same truth in daylight on a Saturday, and both of them had reasons to lie. At the main house, Rhett was in the study. She could see him through the window, phone pressed to his ear, pacing, jaw tight. When he saw her car in the drive, he ended the call and met her at the kitchen door. "Where have you been?" "Walking Duchess in Forsyth Park." She set the leash on the hook. Duchess trotted to her water bowl. "Since when do you monitor my schedule?" "Since Victor Crane's car was seen parked near the fountain at the same time as your walk." His voice had the edge of a man who had been controlling his anger for the length of a phone call. "Did he approach you?" He sat on a bench and made conversation. "What kind of conversation?" "The kind where someone tells you things they want you to believe." She met his eyes. "He mentioned the fund, the 400,000. Rhett went still. not the controlled stillness of a man choosing his words. The stillness of a man whose worst fear had just materialized in the person he least expected. What exactly did he say? He said you have cracks. He said the fund had irregularities. She crossed her arms. He said I deserved to know that I was standing in someone else's wreckage. And you believed him. I did not say that. You did not have to. I can see it. He stepped back. The warmth from the storm night, from the breakfast, from every slow degree of opening. It retreated behind his eyes like a tide pulling back. Victor Crane is not interested in protecting you, Lily. He's interested in acquiring 3 waterfront properties, and if telling you things about me helps him get what he wants, he will tell you whatever he thinks will work. Then tell me what is true. I already did. His voice dropped. During the storm, every word you told me Vanessa stole from you. Victor is telling me the same thing, but he's framing it like you are the one with something to hide. I am the one with something to hide. He ran a hand through his hair, the first uncontrolled gesture she had ever seen from him. That is the point. I buried it to protect the company, and now Crane is using it as leverage because he knows I cannot afford for it to come out. Then let it come out. It is not that simple. It never is. But burying things has not worked for you, Rhett. Burying things is what got you here, alone in a house with 20 rooms and a dog who prefers a stranger. The words landed harder than she intended. He flinched. She saw it, a quick contraction around his eyes, there and gone, and she wished she could take the last sentence back. I think you should go back to the cottage, he said. His voice was level, controlled, the January voice. Rhett. Good night, Lily. She walked out. The evening air was cool against her face. Duchess trotted beside her, oblivious to the fracture that had just opened between 2 people who had spent 3 weeks building something neither of them had named. In the cottage, she sat on the bed and looked at the ceiling. Her phone buzzed. Charlie. How is the millionaire? Charlie asked. Complicated. Lily pressed her palms against her eyes. A man I do not trust told me the truth about a man I do trust, and now I cannot tell which one deserves my suspicion. Both, Charlie said. Always both. That is what trust is for, believing someone even when the evidence is ugly. That is terrible advice. It is the only kind I have. Charlie paused. Do you trust him? Lily looked at the study window. The light was off. For the first time since she had moved in, the study light was off before midnight. I do not know, she said, but I want to, and that scares me more than anything Victor Crane could say. The envelope arrived by courier on a Tuesday morning. White, no return address, addressed to Rhett Donovan. Wade brought it to the study. By the time Lily returned from her mother's house that afternoon, the estate had changed. She noticed it the moment she pulled through the gate. The curtains in the study were drawn. The kitchen was dark. Duchess was in the sunroom, pacing in tight circles by the glass door, her pink tail low. Hey, girl! Lily crouched and gathered the dog. What happened? Wade was waiting on the path between the carriage house and the cottage. His face held the careful neutrality she had come to recognize as his way of bracing for a conversation he did not want to have. Miss Lily, Mr. Donovan would like to speak with you in the study. About what? He did not say. Wade paused. But I would suggest you prepare yourself. The study was dim. One lamp. Rhett stood at the window, his back to the door, hands clasped behind him, the posture of a man who had already made a decision and was now performing the delivery. Sit down, Lily. She sat. Duchess tried to follow her in, but Rhett closed the door before the dog could enter. That was the first wrong thing. He had never shut Duchess out of a room. I have reconsidered the arrangement, he said. He did not turn around. The coat restoration is progressing on schedule. I believe you can complete the remaining treatments from your grooming shop in town. Daily visits, 2 hours, Supervised by Wade. Supervised by Wade. The words came out flat. I have been living here for 3 weeks. Now I need supervision. It is a professional adjustment. It is not a professional adjustment. It is a wall. She stood. What happened? He turned. His face was the version of him she had met on the first day. Controlled, distant, every emotion filed and locked. The man from the storm night, from the kitchen, from the almost everything, was gone. Crane delivered a package this morning, copies of the fund documents, transfer records, account statements from 2021. His voice was flat. He intends to release them publicly, unless I agree to sell the waterfront properties at a price that amounts to robbery. That is blackmail. That is leverage. It is the same thing. Not in real estate. He walked to the desk and sat behind it. The desk was the barrier he always returned to, the moat between himself and everything that felt dangerous. If those documents become public, every deal I have closed in 3 years will be scrutinized. Partners will pull out. Investors will distance themselves. The company will survive, but my reputation will not. Then fight it. I cannot fight it without making it worse. He met her eyes. And I cannot have you here when it happens. Why not? Because if Crane releases those documents, the press will investigate every aspect of my personal life, and a woman living on my estate, a woman I am. He stopped. His jaw worked. He looked away. A woman who is connected to this household will be drawn into a story that is not hers. You are protecting me. I am being practical. You are being afraid. She stepped closer to the desk. Rhett, I know about Vanessa. I know about the money. You told me during the storm. None of this changes how I... It changes everything. His voice cracked on the word everything. Just one word. One fracture in the architecture. This was supposed to be temporary. You were supposed to fix the dog and leave. That was the arrangement. The arrangement stopped being about the dog 2 weeks ago, and you know it. Silence. The kind that has weight and texture and fills a room the way water fills a sinking ship. Please leave by tomorrow, he said. Wade will arrange the remaining treatment schedule. She stared at him. He stared at the desk. Duchess whined on the other side of the closed door. Lily turned and walked to the door. She stopped with her hand on the handle. You want to know the difference between you and me, she said. When something scares me, I make a joke. When something scares you, you fire someone. She opened the door. Duchess was right there, pressing against her legs, pink and warm and confused. Lily walked to the cottage. She packed her suitcase. She packed Gerald. She left the banana pudding on the cottage counter because the thought of taking it made her chest tight in a way that had nothing to do with baking. On her way out, she stopped at the carriage house. The key to the study was on the grooming table where she left it each afternoon. She picked it up and placed it on the windowsill of the main house kitchen. Visible, deliberate, where he would see it. She loaded the car. Duchess stood at the cottage door, watching. The dog did not follow her to the car. She sat in the doorway with her pink head tilted and her tail still. I am sorry, Your Highness. Lily crouched and pressed her forehead against the dog's. Take care of him. He does not know how to take care of himself. She drove down the oak-lined drive. The gate opened automatically. The gravel crunched under her tires. The Spanish moss hung like curtains closing on a stage. In the rearview mirror, she could see the estate getting smaller. The white columns, the carriage house, the garden she had been tending, and in the east sunroom window, a pink shape pressed against the glass. The gate closed behind her. Lily drove 3 blocks before she pulled over. She put the car in park. She gripped the steering wheel with both hands, and she sat there in her old Honda Civic on a quiet Savannah street and did not cry. Not because she was being brave, because the thing she was feeling was bigger than tears, a grief that had no bottom and no edges, the kind that comes from losing something you were not sure you had. Gerald sat in the passenger seat, green and silent. "Not now," she told the fern. Gerald said nothing, for once. That was exactly right. June's cottage smelled like lavender soap and azalea blossoms. The screened porch caught the morning light in long yellow stripes across the wooden floor. A mockingbird was singing in the oak tree by the gate, working through its entire repertoire as if trying to impress someone who was not listening. Lily sat on the porch step with a mug of tea she had not touched. Gerald the fern sat beside her, his fronds catching the breeze. She had been sitting there since dawn. 2 hours, no jokes, no phone calls, no talking to plants. June rolled her wheelchair to the screen door and watched her daughter for a long time before speaking. "How many days has it been?" "4. "And have you eaten today?" "I ate an apple." "An apple is not a meal, sweetheart. An apple is what I could manage." June rolled onto the porch and positioned herself beside the step where Lily sat. The wheelchair had new tires. Lily had replaced them 2 months ago. The same week, she had taken on 3 extra grooming clients to cover the cost without telling her mother. "Tell me what happened," June said. "He asked me to leave." Lily pulled at a thread on her jeans. "The man I told you about, with the estate and the dog. Something happened with his business, and he decided I was too close, and he shut the door. And you left. What was I supposed to do? Break it down?" "You could have stayed and fought." Lily looked at her mother. "Fought for what? A man I have known for 3 weeks, an arrangement that started because I dyed a dog pink." "Fought for what you felt." June's voice was gentle but firm, the voice of a retired schoolteacher who had spent 30 years teaching children to tell the truth. Not the arrangement, not the dog, the thing underneath all of that, the thing you have been telling jokes about instead of naming. The mockingbird switched songs. A car passed on the street. Gerald rustled in the breeze. "I cannot name it, Mom. You are just afraid that if you say it out loud it becomes real, and then it can be lost." Lily pressed her palms against her eyes. "I left veterinary school for you. I left my apartment for a dog. I am beginning to think I only know how to leave things." "You did not leave veterinary school. You chose me." June reached down and took Lily's hand. Her grip was lighter than it used to be. The MS had taken that too, but the warmth was the same warmth it had been for 35 years. "And now you are choosing to walk away from something that matters, because walking away is easier than being honest about what you want. What I want does not change what he decided. What you want changes what you do next." June squeezed her hand. "Sweetheart, you have been laughing so hard for so long that you forgot you are allowed to cry." Something behind Lily's ribs shifted. Not broke, shifted. The way a foundation settles after years of resisting the ground it sits on. She did not cry, but she leaned her head against her mother's knee and closed her eyes, and for the first time in a very long time, she let someone hold her without making a joke about it. Across the city, the Whitfield estate was quiet. Rhett sat in the study with the curtains drawn. The Otis Redding record was still on the turntable, where Lily had left it 4 days ago. He had not moved it. He had not played it. He had not done anything in the study except sit at his desk and stare at the lamp and think about a woman who talked to plants and brought a fern to a business meeting. Wade knocked at 9. Rhett did not answer. Wade knocked again at noon. He opened the door without waiting. "Duchess has not eaten since Miss Lily left. She will eat when she is hungry." She is hungry. She is also grieving. Dogs grieve, Mr. Donovan. They are better at it than people. Rhett looked at Wade. The older man stood in the doorway with his hands behind his back and his reading glasses pushed up on his forehead, and his expression held the particular patience of someone who has watched a person make the same mistake twice and knows the third time is coming. "You let her go," Wade said. I sent her away. You let her go. Wade did not blink. You told yourself it was protection. It was not. It was the same thing you've been doing for 3 years. Building a wall to keep the world out, and then wondering why the house is empty. The house is not empty. You are standing in it. I am standing in a museum. Rhett. Wade used his first name, a rare event, reserved for moments when politeness was no longer the priority. A museum where the most alive thing was a pink dog and the woman who dyed her. Rhett said nothing. Wade reached into his jacket pocket and set something on the desk. The brass key, the one Lily had left on the kitchen windowsill. She returned it, Wade said. I found it on the sill, positioned where you would see it from the hallway. She did not throw it. She did not hide it. She placed it. That is the gesture of a woman who left with dignity, not anger. Rhett looked at the key. His hand moved toward it. Stopped. The dog is lying by the front door, Wade said. She has not moved in 2 days. If that does not tell you what you need to know, then I have worked for you for 12 years and learned nothing. He turned and left. The study door stayed open. From down the hallway, Rhett could hear the soft sound of Duchess breathing by the front door, her nose pressed against the gap at the bottom, waiting for a smell she recognized. He picked up the brass key. He held it in his closed fist. The metal was cold. After a long time, he set it in the top drawer of his desk, beside a photograph he had pushed behind a row of records 3 years ago. 2 people in 2 houses, on opposite sides of a city, built on squares and moss, and the ghosts of people who knew that holding on and letting go are the same act performed at different speeds. Back at June's cottage, Lily found the envelope on the kitchen counter. Charlie had dropped it off that morning, tucked between a bottle of wine and a bag of pralines with a note that said, "Thought you should see this." Inside was a printed entry form. The Savannah Kennel Club, Annual Dog Show, Open Registration, Showcase Category. Lily looked at the form. She looked at Gerald. She looked out the kitchen window, where the sun was setting over Savannah in shades of pink and gold. She picked up a pen. The morning after she filled out the entry form, Lily sat at her mother's kitchen table and called Charlie. "I need to enter a pink dog in the Savannah Kennel Club Dog Show." Charlie was silent for 3 seconds. "Could you repeat that? I think my phone is malfunctioning." "Duchess, the showcase category. Open registration closes in 48 hours. You want to enter a bright pink bichon frise in a championship dog show." Charlie's voice climbed half an octave. "In front of the entire Savannah dog community, with judges and cameras. And Victor Crane, who will be sponsoring the event through Crane Capital." Lily tapped the pen on the table. "His company logo is on the banner, which means he will be there. And why does that matter? Because Victor Crane has been blackmailing Rhett with financial documents from a fund his ex-wife stole from, and if those documents go public in a controlled way, on Rhett's terms, not Victor's, the leverage disappears." Charlie went quiet again. When she spoke, the humor was gone. "Lily, what are you planning?" "I am planning to enter a dog show with a pink dog and tell the truth in a room full of people. That is all." "That is not all. That is a public confrontation with a man who has enough money to bury you and enough motivation to try. He does not scare me. He should." "Charlie," Lily set down the pen, "for 13 years I have been making jokes. I have been pretending that a grooming shop and a fern and a rented apartment are enough. I dropped out of veterinary school and told myself it was a decision, not a loss. I watched every opportunity walk past me, and I waved at it with a funny line, because that was easier than saying I wanted more." She paused. "This is the first time in 13 years I'm not making a joke. I want more, and I'm going to stand in a room and say it. Even if he does not come? Even if he does not come." She heard Charlie exhale on the other end. "All right. What do you need?" "I need you to help me groom Duchess for a showcase. She is still pink. We are not hiding it." "You want to showcase a pink dog?" I want to showcase a beautiful accident, Lily smiled. The first real smile in 4 days. I also need to talk to Wade. June appeared in the kitchen doorway, leaning on the frame. You look like your father this morning. Is that good? Your father was a man who drove to work every day at a quarry that could kill him because he believed his family deserved to eat well. June's eyes were bright. He was terrified every single morning. He went anyway. Lily kissed her mother's cheek. I love you, Mom. I know you do. June touched her face. You never needed the degree, sweetheart. You needed the belief. Lily drove to the estate, not through the main gate. She parked on the access road by Wade's cottage and knocked. Wade opened the door in a flannel shirt and reading glasses, a cup of tea in his hand. Miss Lily! His face rearranged itself from surprise to something warmer. I was wondering when you would call. I did not call, I came. Better. He stepped aside. Come in. Wade's cottage was the opposite of the main house. Small, warm, every surface covered with books and photographs, and the accumulated evidence of a life actually lived. A picture of a woman with kind eyes sat on the mantel. His wife. Tell me about Victor Crane, Lily said. Everything you know. Wade set down his tea. What I know is that Victor Crane and Vanessa Donovan were involved before she left. What I know is that Victor helped Vanessa move the money through accounts he controlled. And what I know is that Crane is now using documents from that operation to blackmail a man who was the victim, not the perpetrator. Lily sat forward. Victor helped Vanessa steal from Rhett. He was her partner, in every sense of the word. Wade's voice carried the specific gravity of a man who had watched a household fall apart and had been powerless to stop it. When Vanessa disappeared with the money, she did not just betray Rhett. She betrayed Victor too. She took his share and vanished. So Victor is as exposed as Rhett. More, Rhett was the victim of theft. Victor was an accomplice to it. Wade took off his glasses and cleaned them with a handkerchief. If those documents become public, they do not just damage Rhett's reputation. They expose Victor's involvement. Crane's entire blackmail strategy depends on Rhett staying silent, and if Rhett does not stay silent, then Victor has no leverage and no protection. Lily leaned back in the chair. The photograph of Wade's wife looked down from the mantel. Kind eyes. A face that had known something about love that Wade still carried. You lost your wife, Lily said quietly. 8 years ago. 7 years and 11 months. Wade put his glasses back on. I spent so long being strong that I forgot to hold her hand. By the time I remembered, she was too weak to hold mine. I am sorry. Do not be sorry. Be smarter than I was. He looked at her over the glasses. Do not wait until the strength runs out. Some things cannot be rebuilt from copies. She understood. The record collection, the rebuilt albums, the same artists, same songs, different copies. A man trying to restore what he lost by purchasing replacements, not realizing that the originals are irreplaceable. The dog show is in 5 days, Lily said. I need Duchess, and I need Rhett to be there. Getting the dog is my department. Wade stood. Getting Rhett is yours. How? You are the woman who negotiated an emotional debt with a millionaire over a pair of $600 shoes. Wade smiled, a rare and genuine expression that transformed his entire face. I suspect you will figure something out. Lily drove home. The afternoon light was gold and warm, and the streets of Savannah were lined with tourists and oak trees, and the smell of pralines from the candy shop on Broughton Street. She had a plan. She had a friend. She had a fern, and she had 5 days to do something she had never done before. Stand in a room full of people and stop joking. Lily parked her truck at the edge of the Donovan estate and killed the engine. The iron gate stood open. Wade must have left them that way. She grabbed the folder from the passenger seat and stepped out into the morning heat. Spanish moss hung low from the oaks, barely swaying. Everything felt still. "You can do this," she whispered. "You survived a pink dog. You can survive a conversation." She walked up the front steps and knocked. No answer. She knocked again, harder. The door opened. Rhett stood there in a wrinkled dress shirt, sleeves rolled to the elbows. His jaw was dark with stubble. The circles under his eyes told her he had not slept. Lily. He said her name like he was not sure she was real. "We need to talk," she said. "And before you give me that speech about protecting me, I should tell you I have been practicing my counter-argument in the car for 40 minutes. Charlie helped me write it." Rhett stared at her. "You should not be here." "And yet—" She held up the folder. "Here I am, with evidence." He did not move from the doorway. Behind him, she heard the click of small paws on hardwood. "Rhett, I'm coming inside. You can step aside, or I will go around to the kitchen door that Wade always leaves unlocked." She paused. "Your choice." He stepped aside. She walked into the study. Papers scattered across the desk. 2 empty coffee mugs. The curtains drawn against the morning light. Lily set the folder on his desk and opened it. "Sit down." "I do not need to sit down. You look like you have not eaten in 3 days, so yes, you do. Please." He sat. She remained standing. "Victor Crane was not just your business partner during the Vanessa situation," Lily said. "He was her accomplice." Rhett went very still. Wade found the records, bank transfers, shell accounts, the whole thing. Victor helped Vanessa move the money. He did not just know about the embezzlement. He built the system for it. She pushed the folder toward him. "It is all in there." Rhett opened the folder. His eyes moved across the first page, then the second. His hand came up to his mouth. He did not speak for a long time. "Wade found this," he said finally. "Wade found this," Lily confirmed. "He has been digging since the night you pushed me away, because that is what people do when they care about someone. Rhett, they do not just accept the worst version of the story." Something moved behind his eyes, not the wall she had seen before. Something raw. "Victor has been threatening you with information that would destroy him more than it would destroy you," Lily said. "If this goes public, his exposure is 10 times worse. You were a victim of Vanessa. He was her partner." Rhett closed the folder. He leaned back and pressed both hands against his face. "Why," he said through his fingers, "why did you do this?" "Because you were being an idiot," Lily said. "A noble, self-sacrificing, impossibly stubborn idiot." He dropped his hands. "I pushed you away." "You did. I said terrible things. You said some moderately terrible things. I have heard worse from cats during bath time." The corner of his mouth moved, not quite a smile. "I thought if I let you close, Victor would use you against me," Rhett said. "Well, he made a mistake. Because the person you pushed away found the thing that undoes him." Rhett looked at the folder. Then he looked at her. Then he looked at the ceiling. And he did something she had never heard him do. He laughed. It started low, almost like a cough. Then it built, a real, full, disbelieving laugh that shook his shoulders. "This is absurd," he said between breaths. "All of it. A pink dog, a pet groomer. My dead ex-wife is accomplice, blackmailing me with evidence of his own crime." He laughed harder. "This is the most ridiculous situation any human being has ever found themselves in." Lily felt her own laugh rising. "I did dye your show dog pink with a faulty bottle of hypoallergenic conditioner. That part is on me." "That part is absolutely on you." He wiped his eyes. The laugh faded, but something stayed, a lightness. His shoulders had dropped an inch. "So what do we do with this?" he asked. "We use it tomorrow." "Tomorrow." "I registered Duchess for the Savannah Kennel Club dog show. The showcase segment, hundreds of people, media coverage. If Victor tries anything, he does it in front of everyone. Rhett stared at her. You registered my pink dog for a dog show. I registered our pink dog for a dog show, and she is going to be spectacular. From the hallway came the soft padding of paws. Duchess appeared in the doorway, her faded pink fur catching the light. She trotted to Lily and pressed her nose against her ankle. She missed you, Rhett said quietly. She is not the only one who gets to say that. Lily knelt and scratched behind the little dog's ears. Have you been eating, baby girl? She started eating again yesterday, Rhett said. I played that Otis Redding record you left. She ate half a bowl. Lily looked up at him. You played Otis Redding for a dog. It worked. She stood. The space between them felt charged but not heavy. They were not falling into something. They were choosing to stand in it. I am not asking for declarations or promises, Lily said. I am asking you to show up tomorrow, stand next to me. Let Victor see that his game is over. As allies, Rhett said. As allies. He nodded. Then he walked to the window and pulled back the curtains. Sunlight flooded the study, catching the dust motes, making Duchess squint. I have spent 2 years hiding from this, he said. From Vanessa, from what she did, from what people would think. People are going to think whatever they think. Believe me, I have tried. I once accidentally shaved a poodle to look like a topiary flamingo. He turned from the window. Did you really? The Henderson woman still will not speak to me. That almost smile again. Closer to real this time. I will be there tomorrow, Rhett said. But Victor is not going to fold quietly. When he realizes what we have, he is going to escalate. Good, Lily said. Let him escalate in front of 300 people and a photographer from the Savannah Morning News. Rhett shook his head, but the smile had finally arrived, small and tired, but real. You are terrifying, he said. I am a pet groomer from the South Side with a mother in a wheelchair and a best friend who talks to ferrets. I have survived worse than Victor Crane. She picked up Duchess. Now, we have 24 hours to get this dog show ready. Where is your bathtub? Across town, in the glass-walled office of Crane Development Group, Victor Crane set down his phone. His hand trembled against the mahogany desk. The call from his contact at the Civic Center had been brief. Duchess was registered. The Beaumont woman had paid the entry fee in cash. He opened his laptop and pulled up the website. There it was. Showcase segment. Duchess, owned by Rhett Donovan. Handler, Lily Beaumont. A public event. Cameras. Press. Victor picked up his glass of bourbon. The surface of the liquid rippled. His hands would not stop shaking. If she talked in front of that crowd, everything he had built would come apart. Not Rhett's reputation, his... He set the glass down without drinking. Back at the estate, Lily stood in the bathroom doorway, sleeves rolled up, Duchess tucked under one arm. The dog show is tomorrow, she said. Are you coming or not? Rhett looked at her, at the pink dog, at the folder on his desk that held the truth. I am coming, he said. The morning of the dog show arrived wrapped in the kind of Savannah heat that made the air shimmer above the pavement. Lily had been awake since 4. She stood at the grooming table in Rhett's kitchen, running a soft brush through Duchess's fur. The pink had faded to a blush, but it was still there, still perfectly stubbornly pink. You are going to be the most beautiful disaster in that building, Lily said to the dog. Duchess wagged her tail and tried to eat the brush. Wade appeared in the doorway holding 2 mugs of coffee. She looks good. She looks pink. She looks like a dog who has been through something and came out the other side. He set a mug beside her. That is a fine quality in any creature. Lily smiled at him. You sound like a fortune cookie, Wade. I sound like a man who has watched this family for 30 years and finally sees someone worth watching back. He sipped his coffee. Is he awake? I heard the shower running 20 minutes ago. Good. He has not been up before noon in weeks. Footsteps on the stairs. Rhett came down in a dark blue suit, freshly shaved, hair combed back. He looked like a different man from the one who had opened the door yesterday. "You clean up well," Lily said. "You have dog hair on your shoulder," Rhett said. "I always have dog hair on my shoulder. It is part of my personal brand." She lifted Duchess off the table. "She is ready, or as ready as a pink Bichon Frise can be for a serious dog show." The doorbell rang. All three of them turned. Wade went to answer it. Voices in the foyer, then heels on hardwood. Sharp, deliberate heels. Patricia Donovan appeared in the kitchen doorway, cream silk blouse, navy slacks, silver hair pinned with the precision of someone who had once run a courtroom. "Mother," Rhett said. His voice had gone flat. "Rhett." She looked around the kitchen. At the grooming supplies, at the pink dog, at the coffee mugs, and the morning light. "I received a call from Wade," Patricia said. "He told me what has been happening. All of it." Rhett shot Wade a look. Wade shrugged one shoulder. "Somebody had to call her," Wade said. "It was not going to be you." Patricia set her handbag on the counter. "I know about Victor. I know about Vanessa's money. I know about the dog show." She paused. "I know you have been carrying this alone for 2 years, and you did not once pick up the phone. I handled it. You hid from it. There is a difference." Patricia moved further into the kitchen. Her eyes landed on Lily. "And you must be the woman with the dye." "Lily Beaumont," Lily said. "I would shake your hand, but I am holding your son's dog. My son's dog appears to be pink." "That is a longer story than we have time for right now." Patricia almost smiled. She turned back to Rhett. "Your father built an empire and died alone in it," she said. The words landed in the kitchen like stones dropped in still water. "I watched him choose the business over everything else, over me, over you, and I told myself that was just who he was." Rhett did not move. "I will not watch you do the same thing," Patricia said. "I will not stand by while another Donovan man chooses pride over people." She straightened her blouse. "So, what time does this dog show start?" "Noon," Lily said quietly. "Then I will be there at 11:30, in the front row." She picked up her handbag. "Wade, I assume you have arranged transportation." "Yes, Ma'am." "Good." She looked at Rhett one more time. "I am on your side, son. I always have been, even when you make it extraordinarily difficult." She walked out. Her heels clicked down the hallway and out the front door. Rhett stood in the kitchen, jaw tight. Lily did not push. Sometimes the bravest thing you could do was stand still and let someone feel what they needed to feel. "She has never said that before," Rhett said finally. "About my father. Maybe she never had a reason to." He nodded slowly. Then he straightened his tie. "We should go." A car horn blasted from the driveway, 2 short honks and 1 long one. Charlie Voss's signature arrival. Lily went to the front door. Charlie was already coming up the steps, carrying a garment bag in one hand and a paper bag of biscuits in the other. "I brought breakfast, and I brought you a dress," Charlie announced. "The biscuits are from the Parker Bakery. The dress is from that consignment shop on Broughton Street that smells like lavender and old money." "You bought me a dress." "I bought you a weapon." Charlie unzipped the garment bag. Inside was a deep green dress, simple cut, fitted at the waist, nothing flashy, just right. "Charlie," Lily breathed, "you cannot give the speech of your life in cargo shorts. Lil, I love you, but there are limits." Charlie handed her the bag. "Go change. I will guard the dog." Lily took the dress upstairs. She changed in the guest bathroom, the same one she had used during those weeks on the estate. The same towels, the same soap that smelled like cedar. The dress fit like it had been made for her. She looked at herself in the mirror and saw someone she almost did not recognize, not because of the dress, because of the look in her own eyes. Steady, ready. She came downstairs. Rhett was standing in the foyer with Charlie and Wade. Duchess sat at his feet, freshly brushed, her pink fur gleaming. Rhett turned when he heard her on the stairs. "You look," he started. "If you say anything about dog hair, I will uninvite you from your own dog show. I was going to say, you look like someone Victor Crane should be very afraid of. That is the correct answer." She took Duchess from the floor. "All right, team meeting. Wade, you have the documents. In the car. Charlie, you have the emergency grooming kit. Brushes, spray, treats, and a lint roller. Rhett," she looked at him, "you have yourself." He held her gaze. "I do. Then we are doing this." They drove to the Savannah Civic Center in 2 cars. The parking lot was already filling when they arrived. Vans with kennel logos, people in blazers walking standard poodles, and German shepherds with coats that caught the sun like copper. "There are a lot of dogs here," Charlie said from the back seat. "It is a dog show, Charlie." "I know that. I am just saying, very serious-looking dogs. And we have a pink one." They parked. Wade and Patricia met them at the entrance. Patricia wore a small gold dog pin on her lapel. Lily had no idea where it had come from. "Ready?" Lily asked. Rhett looked at the building. At the banner that read, "Savannah Kennel Club Annual Showcase." At the stream of people flowing through the entrance. "No," he said honestly, "but I am here." "That is enough." They walked toward the entrance together. All 5 of them, plus one small, faded pink dog. The doors of the Savannah Civic Center opened. Sound hit them like a wave, music over the loudspeakers, the bark and yip of 100 dogs, the murmur of hundreds of people filling rows of seats around a polished show ring. Bright lights hung from the ceiling, turning the space into something that felt like an arena. Lily held Duchess tighter and stepped through. The Savannah Civic Center smelled like floor polish, dog treats, and the particular anxiety of people who had spent months training animals to stand still on command. Lily stood backstage with Duchess in her arms, watching handlers prep their dogs through the gap in the curtain. A woman in a tweed blazer was brushing a silver standard poodle that looked like it had never experienced a single moment of uncertainty in its life. "That dog has better posture than I do," Charlie whispered. "That dog has a better blowout than I do," Lily said. Rhett was to her left, talking with Wade near the registration table. Patricia had taken her seat in the front row, exactly where she had promised. The showcase was scheduled for 2 o'clock. 15 handlers, 15 dogs, each given 3 minutes in the ring. Not the competition proper. The crowd-pleasing part. The part where people showed off their pets and told their stories. Exactly the stage Lily needed. "Lily Beaumont?" A young woman with a headset appeared. "That is me. You are number 11. Enter from the left. Microphone at center ring. 3 minutes." 3 minutes. Got it. The woman glanced at Duchess. "Is your dog pink?" "Yes, it is a whole thing." The woman blinked, made a note, and walked away. Charlie squeezed Lily's arm. "You are going to be incredible. I'm going to throw up. You can be both." A hand touched her shoulder. Rhett. He had come up behind her without a sound. "Wade is ready," he said quietly. "The documents are in the car." "Good." She looked at him. She could see the tension in his jaw, but his eyes were clear. "How are you doing?" "I am standing in a dog show, holding a folder that could dismantle a man's career. I'm doing exactly as well as that sounds. So terrified. Completely. A commotion near the backstage entrance. Voices, sharp and low." Lily turned. Victor Crane walked through the curtain like he owned the building. Grey suit, silver tie. But his eyes swept the room too fast. His left hand gripped his phone. He spotted Rhett and moved toward him, low enough that only Rhett and Lily could hear. "If you think bringing that woman and that dog out there changes anything, you are delusional. I will bury you, Donovan. I will make sure every newspaper in this state prints what Vanessa did under your name." Rhett looked at him. The fear was still there, but it had company now. "Then do it," Rhett said. "Call them, call every single one." Victor blinked. "Because when you do," Rhett continued, "I am going to tell them exactly who helped Vanessa build those accounts. The transfers, the shell companies, the paper trail with your signature on every third page." He paused. "Wade is very thorough." Victor's face went white, all at once. "You are bluffing." "I have spent 2 years being afraid of you," Rhett said. "I am finished." Victor's mouth opened, closed. His knuckles went pale around his phone. "You will regret this," Victor said, but the threat had no teeth. He turned and walked away. His stride was too fast for a man who was not running. Lily let out a breath she did not know she had been holding. The showcase began. Through the curtain, she heard the announcer introducing each handler. Applause, laughter, handler number 4. A man with a golden retriever that could shake hands, handler number 7. A teenager with a rescue mutt that could do backflips, handler number 10. A woman with twin dachshunds dressed as hot dogs. "Lily Beaumont and Duchess," the announcer called. Charlie gave her a push. "Go!" Lily walked into the ring. The lights were blinding. She squinted and saw the rows of seats filled, 300 people. Cameras along the back wall, and in the front row, Patricia Donovan, sitting straight as a column. Lily set Duchess on the show platform. The little dog stood perfectly still, her faded pink fur catching every light. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Lily stepped to the microphone. "My name is Lily Beaumont," she said. "I am a pet groomer, and about 6 weeks ago, I accidentally dyed this dog pink." Laughter, the good kind. "It was a hypoallergenic conditioner that reacted badly. The point is, I ruined a very expensive show dog and my life got very complicated very fast." She looked down at Duchess. The dog looked back with calm, dark eyes. "I moved into the home of the man who owned her because I had to fix what I had broken. And while I was there, trying to turn a pink dog back to white, something happened that I did not plan for." The room was quiet. I fell in love. Not just with the dog, with a man who hides behind his walls because someone taught him that being vulnerable was the same as being weak. With a house that was too big and too quiet. With the idea that maybe the best things in life are not the ones we plan for. They are the ones we accidentally dye pink. Softer laughter. "There is a man in this city who has spent 2 years being blackmailed into silence. His ex-wife embezzled from his company, and the man who helped her do it has been holding that secret over his head, using it to control him, to isolate him." The laughter stopped. The room shifted. "But here is the thing about the truth. It does not destroy the people who tell it. It destroys the people who hide from it." She looked toward the curtain. Rhett was standing just beyond it. She could see him in the shadows. "Love is messier than pink fur," Lily said. "It does not come in the right color. It does not follow the plan. It shows up at the worst possible time, in the worst possible way, and it asks you to be brave enough to let it stay." Her voice cracked. She let it. "Beautiful accidents. That is what this is, all of it. The dog, the man, the mess. We spend so much time trying to be perfect that we forget how to be real. And real is messy. Real is a pink dog at a dog show. Real is standing in front of 300 strangers and admitting that you are terrified." She lifted Duchess. The little dog settled against her chest. "This dog is not going to win any competitions today. Her fur is the wrong color. Her paperwork is a disaster. She eats shoelaces." A few laughs. "But she is loved, and she is here. And sometimes that is the only thing that matters." She looked directly at Rhett. "So I am asking, in front of everyone, are you going to keep hiding? Or are you going to step into the ring with me?" Silence. Rhett stood at the edge of the curtain. Every eye in the building turned to him. He stepped forward, into the light. His shoes clicked on the polished floor. He walked past the judge's table, past the cameras, past his mother who had tears on her cheeks. He stopped in front of Lily. "I do not know how to do this," he said. His voice carried through her microphone, raw and unsteady. "Any of it." "I am not asking you to be anyone," Lily said. "I am asking you to be here. But I would rather fail at it with you," he said, "than succeed at being alone." The crowd erupted. Not polite applause. A roar. People stood. People cheered. Somewhere in the back, someone whistled with 2 fingers. Rhett turned to the audience. He straightened, and in front of 300 people and 6 cameras, he said the thing he had been hiding from for 2 years. "My name is Rhett Donovan. My ex-wife, Vanessa Donovan, embezzled $400,000 from my company. She did not do it alone. She had help from a man named Victor Crane, who then used that information to blackmail me into silence." He paused. "I am done being silent." The room went electric. Reporters in the back were already on their phones. Lily reached out and took Rhett's hand. He looked down at their joined fingers. Then he looked at her, and in front of everyone, in the bright lights and the noise and the chaos, he held on. The hours after the speech moved in a blur of noise and flashbulbs. Lily sat on a metal folding chair backstage while Duchess slept in her lap. The little dog had decided that the most exciting moment of the day was the perfect time for a nap. Charlie appeared with 2 bottles of water and a look of stunned admiration. "You just did that." "I just did that." Lily pressed the water bottle against her forehead. "I think my hands are still shaking." "Your hands are shaking because you stood in front of 300 people and declared war on a millionaire. That is a reasonable physical response." Charlie sat beside her. "How are you feeling?" "Like I jumped out of an airplane and the parachute opened, terrified and alive." On the other side of the backstage area, Rhett was on the phone with his attorney. Lily could hear fragments, documents, filed by Monday, full cooperation. His voice was steady, the voice of a man who had finally stopped running. Wade stood near the door, arms crossed. He had positioned himself there the moment Victor left the building. "Where did Victor go?" Lily asked. "Parking lot," Wade said. "He sat in his car for 10 minutes. Then he drove away. I called Rhett's legal team." "You are terrifyingly efficient, Wade." "I have had 30 years of practice." Rhett finished his call and crouched beside Lily's chair. "My attorney is preparing a statement," he said. "Full disclosure of Vanessa's embezzlement, my knowledge of it, and Victor's involvement. It goes to the Savannah Morning News tonight." "Are you sure?" "I have never been more sure of anything." He looked at the sleeping dog. "I should have done this 2 years ago." 2 years ago. You did not have a pink dog and a pet groomer forcing you to be brave. "That is true." He almost smiled. "My attorney also said something interesting. Victor's financial records have already been flagged by the State Attorney General's office. They have been building a case for months. Our documents fill in their gaps." So Victor was already in trouble. Victor was already drowning. He just did not know it. Rhett stood. "Criminal charges are likely: embezzlement, fraud, conspiracy." Lily looked at the sleeping dog. "Duchess, you accidentally started a legal investigation. Good girl." The competition portion proceeded without interruption. Champion bloodlines, perfect gaits, dogs that moved like they had been engineered by NASA. Duchess slept through all of it. At 4 o'clock, the announcer returned to center ring for the final awards. Lily was texting her mother and not paying attention. Charlie grabbed her arm. "Lily, listen. And now for our special award," the announcer said, "voted on by the audience themselves. The audience favorite award goes to the dog and handler who most captured the hearts of everyone in this building." Lily looked up. "Duchess, handled by Lily Beaumont." The roar hit her through the backstage curtain. Charlie was already pulling her to her feet. "Go," Charlie said. "Go, go, go." Lily walked into the ring holding a sleepy, confused, slightly pink Bichon Frise. Duchess blinked at the lights and yawned. The audience was standing, all of them. Patricia in the front row, clapping with both hands, strangers wiping their eyes, a little girl in the third row holding up a stuffed pink dog. They handed her a small trophy, a golden dog on a wooden base. Duchess sniffed it and tried to lick it. Lily leaned into the microphone. "Thank you. On behalf of Duchess and her questionable grooming history, we are honored." More laughter, more applause. She carried Duchess and the trophy backstage, where Rhett was waiting. "Audience favorite," he said. "Do not let it go to your head. She won it, not you." "I would not dream of taking credit." He touched the top of the trophy. "Where are we going to put this?" The word "we" landed softly between them. Lily noticed. She did not comment. Some things were better left to grow on their own. The sun was setting by the time they left the civic center. Golden light spilled across the parking lot. "I need to walk," Lily said. "My legs have been wound up like springs for 6 hours. Forsyth Park is 10 minutes from here. Then let us walk." They walked. Duchess trotted between them on her leash, sniffing every crack in the sidewalk. Charlie had taken Wade and Patricia to dinner, giving them space without being asked. Forsyth Park spread before them in the evening light. The fountain at its center caught the last of the sun, water arcing and falling in patterns that had not changed in 150 years. They walked in silence, not the heavy silence of things unsaid. The comfortable silence of people who had said the hard things and were resting afterward. "Victor called me," Rhett said. 20 minutes ago." Lily looked at him. "What did he say?" He said, "You think you are the only one she burned, Donovan." Lily was quiet for a moment. What did he mean? "I think he meant Vanessa used him too. That he was not just her accomplice. He was her victim." Rhett picked up a fallen magnolia leaf and turned it in his fingers. "It does not excuse what he did, but it changes the shape of it." "People do terrible things when they are hurt," Lily said. "That is not an excuse." "No, but it is an explanation." They reached the fountain. Lily sat on the stone bench. Rhett sat next to her. Duchess jumped up between them and settled into the space like she had been designed to fit there. "My attorney says the charges will likely include wire fraud," Rhett said. "Federal jurisdiction." "How do you feel about that?" "Yesterday, I wanted him destroyed. Today, I just want him gone." He leaned back. "Is that growth?" "That might be growth. It is uncomfortable. Growth usually is." A couple walked hand in hand near the rose garden, normal life, moving around them like water around stones. "I released a public statement an hour ago," Rhett said. "Full disclosure, everything about Vanessa, what I knew when I knew it." He paused. "My mother proofread it. Patricia proofread your public confession. She corrected my grammar in 3 places and told me my second paragraph was too passive. She is a retired judge. She cannot help herself." Lily laughed, a real laugh, the kind that came from somewhere deep and good. The park grew quieter as the evening settled. Street lamps clicked on one by one. Somewhere nearby, a musician was playing guitar, something slow and southern. "Can I ask you something?" Lily said. "You have never asked permission to ask me anything before." "Fair point." She turned to him. "When you stood in front of that crowd and said you were done being silent, what did that feel like?" He thought about it, not searching for the right answer, searching for the true one. "It felt like setting something down," he said. "Something I had been carrying so long I forgot what my shoulders felt like without it." Duchess shifted in her sleep and pressed her nose against Rhett's thigh. "I have been carrying things too," Lily said. "My mother's illness, the shop, the feeling that I was always one bad day away from everything falling apart." She looked at the fountain. "Today, I set some of them down." Not all of them. No, but enough to breathe. They sat there as the park grew dark. The fountain hummed, the guitar played. "So what happens now?" Lily asked. Rhett looked at her. The lamplight caught the edge of his face, the question in his eyes. "I do not know," he said, "but I think that might be the point." 3 weeks later, the study door was open. This was the first thing Lily noticed every time she walked into the Donovan estate. The door that had always been closed, locked, sealed behind Rhett's need for control and silence. Now it stood open, letting light from the hallway spill across his desk. "You left your coffee on the kitchen counter," Lily said, leaning against the doorframe. Rhett looked up from his laptop. "I have been looking for that for 20 minutes. It was next to the dog treats, which Duchess found before I did. How many did she eat?" "Enough to be very pleased with herself." He smiled. Not the tight, controlled expression she had first seen on the day she dyed his dog pink. Something looser, something that reached his eyes. "What time is your class?" he asked. 2 o'clock, anatomy and physiology. Professor Duncan says I am his oldest student, and he means it as a compliment, but I am not entirely sure. Lily had re-enrolled in veterinary school 3 days after the dog show. Part-time, evening classes at the Savannah campus. Charlie had helped her fill out the forms. Her mother had cried. Rhett had offered to pay the tuition, and Lily had said no so firmly that he never brought it up again. She was paying for it herself. That mattered. "You are going to be an excellent veterinarian," Rhett said. "I am going to be a 40-year-old veterinarian. There is no expiration date on becoming the thing you were meant to be." "Did you read that on a coffee mug?" "I read it in the self-help book Charlie left on my nightstand." "Charlie left a self-help book on your nightstand." "She broke into the house while we were at dinner. Wade let her in." He turned back to his laptop. "It is actually quite good." "Do not tell her I said that." Lily laughed and went to retrieve his coffee. The estate had changed in 3 weeks. Small changes. A pair of Lily's shoes by the front door. Veterinary textbooks on the kitchen table. A vinyl record collection that had doubled because Charlie kept bringing them from the thrift store. Bigger changes, too. The garden had a section in the back where Lily had planted tomatoes. They were not growing well. She did not care. The guest bedroom had quietly become something else. Her clothes in the closet, her phone charger beside the bed. Neither of them had discussed it. It had just happened, the way the best things did. "Your mother called?" Lily said, returning with the mug. "She wants to know if we are coming to Sunday dinner." "What did you tell her?" "I told her yes, because your mother terrifies me, and I am not brave enough to say no to a retired judge." "Nobody is." Rhett took the mug. "How is June?" "Good. The new medication is helping. She made biscuits yesterday, by herself. Charlie went to help, but Mama shooed her out of the kitchen." "That sounds like June. That sounds like every Beaumont woman who has ever lived." Duchess trotted into the study with something in her mouth. She dropped it at Rhett's feet and sat back, tail wagging. "That is my wallet," Rhett said. "She is bringing you gifts. It is a sign of affection. She stole it from the counter. Affection and theft are not mutually exclusive in this household." He picked up the wallet and looked at the dog. Duchess looked back with the serene confidence of an animal who knew she was adored and intended to exploit it fully. Her fur had grown back almost entirely white. The pink had faded over the weeks, washed out by baths and time. She looked pristine, perfect, show-ready. Almost. "I need to give her a trim before my class," Lily said. "She is getting shaggy around the ears." She collected Duchess and carried her to the mudroom. The space had been converted into a grooming station during her first stay and had never been converted back. Clippers on hooks, shampoo bottles lining the shelf. Lily set Duchess on the table and began brushing her out. The dog stood patiently. "You and me, Duchess," Lily murmured. "We started something, did we not?" She trimmed the fur around the face, shaped the ears, smoothed the top knot. Then she reached under the table and pulled out a small bottle. She glanced toward the door. Rhett was still typing in the study. She uncapped the bottle. Inside was a soft pink tint, semi-permanent, gentle formula, the exact shade that had started everything. "Just one ear," she whispered to Duchess. "Our secret." She applied the dye carefully. One ear. Left side, just enough to turn the white fur a delicate, unmistakable pink. Duchess wagged her tail. Lily finished the groom, cleaned up, and carried Duchess back through the house. She set the dog on the floor and watched her trot toward the study. Duchess walked in and sat at Rhett's feet. Lily leaned in the doorway and waited. Rhett looked down from his laptop. He saw the fresh groom, the perfect white coat, and then he saw the ear. He stared at it. "Lily?" "Yes, her ear is pink." "Is it? You dyed her ear pink." "I have no idea what you are talking about." He looked at her. She held his gaze with the face of absolute innocence she had perfected over 35 years. And then he laughed. Not the careful, controlled laugh from the beginning, not the surprised laugh from the day she brought the folder. This was the real one. The laugh that came from the deepest part of him, the part that had been locked behind years of armor and expectation and fear. He laughed until he had to push back from the desk, until Duchess barked at the sound, until Lily started laughing too, and the study filled with a noise this house had needed for longer than anyone could remember. "You are impossible," he said, wiping his eyes. "And yet," Lily said. "And yet," he agreed. Duchess barked once more, pleased with the attention, and trotted between them with her one pink ear catching the afternoon light. Later, they stood in the garden. The tomatoes were still struggling. The azaleas along the fence bloomed in deep magenta. The live oak at the center spread its branches wide, draped in Spanish moss that moved in the warm spring breeze. Rhett stood with his hands in his pockets. Lily stood beside him. Duchess chased a butterfly with absolutely no chance of catching it and complete joy in the pursuit. "I have a meeting with the district attorney on Tuesday," Rhett said. "Victor's case is moving forward. How do you feel about it?" "Lighter." He watched the dog. "I feel lighter." Lily picked a tomato that was almost ripe. She turned it in her hand. "This is the first one. It is very small. It is perfect." He looked at her. She looked at him. The garden was warm and green and alive around them. "I love you," he said simply, "the way you say something that has been true for a while and has finally found its way to the surface." "I know," Lily said. "I have known since you played Otis Redding for a dog." He put his arm around her. She leaned into him. Duchess gave up on the butterfly and came to sit at their feet, her one pink ear bright against the green of the garden. 3 people in a blooming garden, 2 of them standing, one of them slightly pink. The sun moved through the branches of the live oak, casting patterns of light and shadow across the grass. Somewhere inside the house, a record was playing, something old and warm and exactly right. Lily closed her eyes and breathed. Everything was messy. Everything was imperfect. Everything was exactly where it was supposed to be. What did you think of Lily and Rhett's story? Leave your thoughts in the comments. Rate this story from 0 to 10. Subscribe to the channel and turn on the notifications to keep up with all our stories. And do not miss more heartwarming tales by clicking on the screen now.